Hi everybody, Jessie here, and decided to get outdoors this month while filming this month's video because it's just amazing. We finally had spring hit here in the White Mountain region, and it's incredible watching the leaves come out and the colors splash through the hillsides, and it's really, really incredible. So I wanted to take advantage of this great, beautiful day out here. And this month, what I wanted to share with you is actually some kind of personal experiences that are going on for me, but I think that they'll have some great connections for you as well, based on things that people have been telling me and sharing with me that are happening in their life. And that is about old empty houses and feelings of emptiness, feelings of, well, unworthiness in some ways, and feelings of being just not knowing, this state of flux, this uncertainty, this aspect of feeling lost in a way. So these are some really powerful pieces, and the reason I bring up old empty houses and what does that have to do with anything is because I've been having a lot of dreams about old empty houses lately, and this has come up during the processing aspects of processing my accident, processing through some trauma, and today actually happens to be a really unique day for me, so I didn't want to do anything but film this video and take time to honor this day, which is the 3rd anniversary of Orly passing, and those that know my journey with Orly know that she's the one that unfolded the code insights for me. But old empty houses are a really powerful thing, because we look at old empty houses and we think to ourselves, well, you know, this is really, I don't know about this, you know? Like, we look at them and we think, oh, it's all worn down, and we look at the physical characteristics and we say they're unsafe, and we look at them and they say, oh, that's ugly, and things like that. Well, in my connections with my dreams, I'm coming to realize that the old empty houses I keep seeing, every time I go into them in my dreams, there's somebody there, and I keep telling them, I go, oh my God, don't downplay this old empty house. It's amazing, it's beautiful. Look at the architecture, look at this, look at that in it. This is so historic, and it's so full of stories and so full of this amazing, incredible energy. And the people always look at me like, you're crazy, can you not see what shape this house is in? But I can absolutely relate to that old empty house, because people can look at me sometimes and go, you're out of shape. They can look at me and they can say, hey, you don't look like you did when you were modeling in your 20s, or things like that. And that can hurt sometimes. But when we understand the codes of the old empty house, then we understand some of these more powerful, beautiful parallels that they connect us to. And the old empty house is really ourself. You know, it's who we are in so many ways. And I say this because, first of all, old oftentimes has been connected to not being useful. And a lot of us have that stigma, and there's a lot of programming in society that says, well, as you get old, you're not useful. But old actually connects us with a piece of wholeness. When we age, in some ways, yes, we're not willing to deal with certain things, but we take on more of a role of an observer, and we take on more of a role of embracing all aspects of life, of who we are, of everything that made it up, the good, the bad, the ugly, the pretty, whatever you want to say, all those different polarities that we experience here on this earth. And then we have empty. Now, empty is a really huge factor in all of this, because a lot of people said lately they've been feeling this emptiness inside of them. They've been feeling empty. And when we look at the power of what empty is about, empty is actually connected to our success. So if we're not willing to embrace what is empty, then we're oftentimes not going to find that abundance. We're not going to find that happiness that so many people are seeking after. And they're seeking outside of themselves. They're seeking out here in the woods. They're seeking in the city walls and the structures, and they're seeking it in other people. But they're not embracing the empty spaces. And I've said it before, but the empty spaces are like the pauses in the music. And it's the pauses in the music that make the melody, that make the song, that make the sounds that we hear. It's the pauses in the stream that allow us to hear the noises of the stream running down the rocks. It's powerful. And empty is not about filling it up, because sometimes people go, oh, look at that old empty house. Let's renovate it. Let's put everything new in it. Let's put, you know, all brand new things. Let's change it over. Let's restructure it. Let's do this. Let's do that, right? Let's fill it all up with stuff, right? And that's what we do in life. When we get empty, so many of us don't know how to sit in that space. And so we fill it with stuff that doesn't really mean a whole lot to us, or people that don't mean a whole lot to us, in the sense of we don't connect with them, or we don't resonate with where they're at, or we're in different spaces, different places, but we connect with them strictly because we're feeling this emptiness and we don't know what to do with it. And then houses. A house or houses really have to do with responsibility and commitments. But what's very interesting is oftentimes we think of houses dealing with responsibilities and commitments to others. But if we look at what a commitment truly is, if we look at the aspect through this code perception, we find that responsibility is about our own well-being. Responsibility, and the only real commitment we have, has nothing to do with our commitments in the outer world. It doesn't mean our commitments to jobs and being tied down someplace. What it means is our commitment to ourself, to our own wholeness, to our own well-being, and embracing that and being that, and saying, hey, if I am this bohemian free spirit, what the heck am I doing in corporate America? You know? If that's not who I am, then why would I try to force myself into that mold? And I know I have changes to make in some of these areas myself. So when we bring all of these components together and we talk about embracing our wholeness to generate a happiness that can only be found through our commitment to ourselves. Think about that. How cool is that? Embracing our wholeness to create a happiness which generates a success in our being able to hold commitments to ourselves, our whole self, who we truly are. That aspect of every piece of us and what we're feeling in the moment and what is going on in our life. So these old empty houses are really this beautiful, magical, incredible energy that tell us we're at a turning point. And when you walk in and you're willing, again, to embrace that emptiness in it, and you see what's inside of it, and you don't look at how its outer package is falling apart, but you really see the beauty in it, it becomes an incredible, life-transforming experience. Now, this is really, really powerful, because right now we're on top of a new moon for May, and new moon energy is always this huge embracing with our personal power. And it really, on this new moon, is connecting a lot with being about endings. And, you know, when we look at these old empty houses, we think, well, there's a lot of endings with that. Somebody abandoned them. You know, somebody left them falling apart, left them alone, you know, deserted them, things like that. But endings aren't always about that. And endings are sometimes about closure. Sometimes they're great successes because they are about things that we've released. And if you've been doing trauma release, and I get a lot of spiritual workers and healers and people that say this, of saying, I've released all of this stuff, but it's not quite what I thought it would be. I don't feel myself this jumping with joy thing, you know, exuberant, living this extravagant lifestyle. But it's not necessarily about that when we become empty. So when we do this, what makes a space special, what makes those old empty houses intriguing, is the energy that's within them. It's the stories that they hold within those walls. It's not the outer package. They wouldn't be half as intriguing if they looked like every other house on the block. They wouldn't be half as intriguing if they had all kinds of changes and updates to them, because it's their own individual unique character that makes people fall in love with them. And it's those people that look inside that house with you and say, wow, there's something really incredible here. Now, I know when I journeyed with Orly, she didn't have the prettiest little package. You know, she was a tiny little thing. She wasn't some big cat. You know, she didn't have all sorts of things going on. She was starving to death when I found her, you know, skin and bones. She didn't look great at all. Her eyes were all crusted over. And she had this kind of smushed up face, and she had this little kind of cleft palate thing that was like this, and her nose and her mouth area. And, you know, but it was those traits that drew me to her. It was those traits that were just so endearing, and it made me want to take another look inside. And you know what? She embraced those traits. She embraced all that uniqueness. And the more she embraced that, and the more she came out, and the more that she just allowed herself to be in that wholeness and to live in that, people just showed up from everywhere, finding her to be the most amazing thing. I watched biker dudes just feel like, oh, I've got to stop and take a picture with this cat. We would be on trails and people would have to stop and get pictures with her. It didn't matter where we were, people were taken by her because she embraced the empty, old empty house energy. And she was 11 to 13 when I found her. She had the old empty house energy mastered. So what really turns us around in this energy is this aspect, and I'm trying to kind of keep this waterfall, because I love this waterfall back here, trying to kind of keep it going here. But what really allowed her to have all of these things and embrace this energy, and she did it so very well, and that was always inspiring to me, that she could just embrace who it was not about trying to fill all this stuff up in life, but it was simply about love. It was simply about caring, and that was a lot of our relationship. And when we look at this old empty house energy, it's about loving and caring about ourselves. And it's not about what the package comes, because old empty houses, guess what? They're in all different shapes, sizes, colors, and they're still old empty houses. So that has nothing to do with it. What it has to do is what's here. How are you honoring and keeping the responsibilities to yourself? How are you holding the commitment to be who you are? And how are you embracing that? Because the only people that have walked away from that old empty house, and you wonder, oh, my heart goes out to it, is yourself. You've walked away from your own commitment to yourself. That's the really cool piece. And when people tune into this energy and they have that feeling of being empty or emptiness coming up, what happens for them a lot of times is they feel lost, especially if that emptiness or being empty comes from, say, releasing trauma, comes from letting go of something or clearing something or discovering the truth in something and embracing the truth in something, because sometimes that truth doesn't look so pretty for us. So they get this sense of feeling lost. And what lost is really about is it's about immortal love, and it's about peacefulness. And when we're feeling lost, we're kind of seeking that in a way. We're seeking to have that peaceful thing. And here again, that ties back in with all of this, because the old empty house has a peacefulness about it. It has a calm about it. It has a timeless love that's in it. And I've got the sun shifting on me, so I'm trying not to create too many shadows here. But it ties into this. So oftentimes what happens when people go out and they start trying to fill that empty house up is they're trying to find truly peace and immortal love, because they're not sure how to be still and to embrace that emptiness. See, nature is naturally full. It doesn't need to fill itself with stuff. And it's so interesting how over the years we had all the stuff created, and now all the stuff that's being created is being created to try to mimic nature. But we've got nature just perfectly fine on its own. And it's one big empty house. Imagine that. Nature is this amazing thing. And when we look at these three components here, we have old. And old is about a wealth, a prosperity, a feeling rich within us that creates or generates a healing. It creates a completion, and that completion brings us to a space of home, our own home within ourselves. And empty is about trust, and it's about trusting ourselves, our intuition. It is tuning into that sort of feminine energy in a way and balancing that, because we need that trust, we need that care, we need that nurturing going on. And when we do that, we naturally become rich. We naturally inherit the divine presence. We naturally inherit, which is already there, by the way. It's not like we don't have it, because we do. But it is about feeling that in our human self. And that's the difference, is it's always there. It's just a matter of whether we're feeling it inside of us. And then what we have is we've got the prosperity, and that leads when we embrace that inner self, when we embrace the caring, when we embrace the love for ourselves, for that old empty house, so to say, we move into a space of prosperity. That's where we see the victories. It's not in the stuff, it's in the emptiness. The victory is in the emptiness, and the joy in life comes out of the victory of being able to embrace the inner emotional prosperity. And then a house, as opposed, houses are places that oftentimes start with challenges. They can be a bumpy ride sometimes. We don't think about that, but it is a shelter. It is truly a shelter, and it is a shelter from the challenges and the things that we deal with in life. So this is why the self-care is so important. This is why feeling rich within ourselves is so important, because it is that commitment to ourself which is going to provide us the shelter, so to say, the refuge from the outer world. We're not going to find that protection outside of ourselves. It's going to be inside ourselves. It's internal. It's in that commitment that we hold to ourselves to be treated with integrity, to treat ourselves with integrity, to honor the commitments to be who we are. And that in turn, again, leads and continues to open that prosperity pattern. It continues to open the abundance. It continues to open the wealth on every single level, every single way, and every single form in our life. And from there, it goes on and again retunes us to the love, the nurturing, the caring. It reminds us, these different things, that the joy is coming out of the internal process. We're never going to find it in the stuff that we fill our houses with. We're going to find it in the empty house. We're going to find it in that calm space. And from there, it connects us with ourselves when we embrace that. And when we do that, we obtain the most amazing trust, because we're standing in our soul self. we're standing in everything that we really are. So I want to take a moment here, and I'm just going to sit down right here in the middle of the creek. So maybe you can kind of join me here and just take a moment to close your eyes with me. Be still. Listen to nature, listen to the emptiness, because it's got enough of its own sounds, its own stories to share. And just breathe a couple of breaths. You know, when we live in the cities, we don't see a lot of old empty houses. And the energy of a city keeps us from focusing on self, because it's always about outer world perceptions, other people's perceptions, thoughts, ideas of who we should be, patterns and programs given to us. So I encourage you to get out, take a drive, get into some country areas, farmlands, whatever it is for you. But connect with the old empty houses, because when you do, you're connecting with yourself. And the next time you go by and see an old empty house, I hope you'll remember this story. And I hope that you'll remember that they are incredible spaces, and they are a reminder for you to let yourself be empty and love that and see what is amazing inside. Take care, everybody, and I will see you next time.